Kalimera Elada. Good evening, Armenia. Hello to all the participants of our today's webinar. Your Excellency, Mr. Ambassador, ladies and gentlemen, dear participants, dear Andreas, and members of your team. On behalf of the staff and expert community of the Armenian Institute of International and Security Affairs, I welcome all participants to our first conference with our Greek partner, Kedisa. I thank you for taking the time to dedicate your working and late evening hours to participating in this long-awaited event. Yes, it was supposed to take place this February, but due to technical difficulties, it did not happen. Nevertheless, it is taking place during an important political period for Armenia. In 10 days, parliamentary elections will be held in my country, and all political forces are intensely involved in the election campaign. Perhaps this is also the reason why the English-speaking members of parliament of the parliamentary friendship groups were unable to participate this time due to oversaturated meeting and travel schedules. The head of the ruling faction of the National Assembly, Mr. Konjorian, who is also the head of the Greece-Armenia Friendship Group and was present last time, asked to convey his warm greetings to everyone along with his high readiness to participate in future discussions. We are grateful that the Armenian side is represented by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Internal Affairs, and we also express our deep gratitude to the Greek officials for their written and oral welcoming remarks. Tomorrow is also our Republic Day, which this time is being marked by a military parade showcasing the armaments acquired by the Armenian army in recent years. We hope to see among them those acquired from our Greek brothers, as Greece is the first NATO member state since Armenia's independence, with which military cooperation agreements were signed. Many Armenian officials have been educated in Greek military educational institutions, and tomorrow we are going to see the prototype of an army that has set itself the goal of compliance with NATO standards. In this regard, Greece's continuous partnership is an imperative. 2 weeks ago, Armenia also hosted the European Political Community Summit, the first Armenia-EU Summit too, which holds key significance in the context of Armenia's declared foreign policy priority of European integration. Let me inform you that last year, Armenia's parliament passed a law to initiate the EU membership process, and our institute played an important role in the public political consolidation. Today's topic is precisely the comparison of Armenia's and Greece's paths on this journey, outlining Greece's possible and future role. And the title of our webinar speaks for itself. Yesterday, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio visited Armenia and together with Foreign Minister Ararat Mirzoyan, pre-signed the Comprehensive Strategic Partnership Agreement, as well as the Trump Road Framework Agreement. In the future, this route will connect us and Central Asia to Turkey's territory to the Mediterranean basin, the EU, and specifically Greece. Therefore, a more visible role for our Greek brothers in the development of the Middle Corridor and the Trump Road is highly demanded. We have many issues to discuss today, and our test will be facilitated not only by the briefings from officials of both sides, but also by our two wonderful speakers, Dr. Panayota Manoli and Dr. Ani Ghazarian. After a break of many years, I am happy to remotely welcome Dr. Manoli and other Greek colleagues once again, as well as the members of the Federation of Greek Communities of Armenia and the community and the Armenian community in Greece. Finally, I would like to thank Tigran Galumian, who bridged this wonderful institutional cooperation, invested great efforts to make it happen, and he is our moderator today. Andreas, that was my opening remarks, and I'm just giving the floor to you and to Tigran.
Thank you very much, dear Stepan. My speech will be shorter than yours. Thank you for your comprehensive introductory speech. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, it's an honor for the Center for International Strategic Analyses, KEDISA, to co-organize this event with the renowned Armenian Institute of International and Security Affairs. My cordial thanks to the founder and director of AIISA, Mr. Stiopa Safarian, as well as to the moderator of today's event, Mr. Tigran Galoumian, for our excellent cooperation. I would also like to warmly thank our distinguished speakers for their participation today and all the attendants. 2026 marks 45 years since Greece joined the then European Economic Community. Greece's experience in the European Union helped a lot to the modernization, development, and security of our country. In a world of turbulence and conflict, the European Union is an oasis of prosperity, peace, and stability. Armenia and Greece, two friendly nations and old civilizations, share common values, and in my view, Armenia has to learn a lot from the participation of Greece in the European Union. Greece is looking forward to welcoming Armenia in the European family and will support Armenia's road ahead to the European Union. Once again, thank you all for your participation in our joint event. I will give now the floor to the moderator of today's event, Mr. Tigran Galoumian, to start with our event. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, dear colleagues. Distinguished guests, good evening, everyone. Warm welcome to our today's online webinar entitled Two Nations, One European Vision, Greece, EU Experience, and Armenia's Road Ahead. It's a great pleasure and honor for me to moderate today's discussion, which is co-organized by the Center for International Strategic Analyses, KEDISA, and the Armenian Institute of International and Security Affairs. Today's topic is both timely and highly meaningful. Greece and Armenia are two nations connected by history, culture, friendship, and shared values. At the same time, both countries are part of a broader European political and civilization space, and Greece's long experience as a member of the European Union offers valuable lessons, while Armenia's evolving European path opens important questions about reforms, security, regional challenges, and future opportunities. Our discussion today aims to bring these perspectives together, to reflect on Greece's experience, and to examine Armenia's road ahead. We are especially honored to have with us distinguished representatives, diplomats, policymakers, academics, and experts. And we have received a welcoming remark in written form by His Excellency Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Hellenic Republic, Mr. Haris Theocharis, and I will read it. Now, distinguished guests, it's a great pleasure to take part in today's discussion. I would like to warmly congratulate the organizers for bringing together policymakers, diplomats, experts, and friends of both Greece and Armenia to reflect on a topic that is both timely and forward-looking. The relationship between Greece and Armenia is rooted in long-standing historical ties, mutual respect, and a shared attachment to democratic values, culture, heritage, and international law. Greece has constantly supported the deepening of relations between the European Union and Armenia, including the launch of the visa liberalization dialogue and the adoption of the new strategic agenda that will guide EU-Armenia relations in the years to come. Armenia's adoption by its National Assembly of the EU Integration Act in March 2025 was a significant signal of the country's strategic orientation. It demonstrated the determination of the Armenian people to advance democratic reforms, strengthen the rule of law, and align more closely with the European standards and values. In this regard, the first EU-Armenia summit, which took place in Yerevan on 5th May of 2026, marked a historic milestone in the partnership between Armenia and the European Union. The summit sent a stronger political message about the growing strategic significance and EU-Armenia cooperation. Allow me in this context to recall the words of the President of the Hellenic Republic during the visit of the Armenian President to Athens in February. Greece views Armenia as a natural partner of Europe, not only because of its commitment to democratic principles and reforms, but also because Armenia is an integral part of European culture and intellectual tradition. These words capture well the sense of our approach. Greece's own European journey has taught us that integration is both a transformative process and a collective endeavor. It requires vision, reforms, and strong partnership. The European path is not always easy, but it remains a powerful framework for promoting stability, prosperity, and social cohesion. In this spirit, Greece stands ready to share its experience, to continue advocating for closer EU-Armenia relations, and to support Armenia throughout this important process. I am confident that today's discussion will generate valuable ideas and further strengthen the dialogue between our two nations and within the wider European family. Thank you. Now I will give the floor to His Excellency, Ambassador of Republic of Armenia to the Hellenic Republic, Mr. Tigran Mukherjee. Please, Mr. Ambassador.
Hello, everyone. It's a great pleasure to join this important, even though first discussion on this important topic. I'd like to also mention that with Panayota Manoli and with Stiopa Safarian, we had the last time that we met all of us together was in 2008 in Greece, in Kalimnos, during an ICBSS Greek-based think tank, International Center for Black Sea Studies event, which was a very memorable, to say the least. So I'm very happy to see you all together again. And I want to thank Kedisa for organizing this interesting and important discussion, as well as Armenian Institute of International and Security Affairs, led by indefatigable Stefan Safarian. The title of the event, of course, could be Two Nations and One Vision, omitting the part European, because it's very clear for everybody who knows, who follows the politics that Greece and Armenia pursue, that both of our agendas, of course, are coinciding and are crossing our meeting on this point, on the European vision of the values. So I believe that our cooperation is a very much values-oriented, values-based cooperation. And in this 1 or 2 minutes, I would like to frame the bilateral framework of describe the bilateral framework of our cooperation, which has been advancing over the last few years. I mean, it has been very much, traditionally, it has been very strong and cooperative, but over the past few years, we have been developing in a number of areas. And I would like to mention, of course, that first and foremost is the political dialogue, which has been on a very, very high level. The foreign ministries of both countries have been in regular consultations, and the foreign ministers have been in regular meetings. This year, earlier, as it was mentioned, there was a presidential state visit, actually, to Greece. Earlier, before that, 2 months before that, there was the president of the National Assembly for Armenia paying visit to Greece. And on the level of course, defense ministries, this was also mentioned about the defense cooperation. The cooperation has been very intense, and I cannot promise what can be shown during tomorrow's parade, but I can certainly say that much of the preparedness of our officer staff is thanks to the Greek military academies, where the Armenians have been passing preparation and have been studying on various levels, by the way, starting from junior officer level to senior officer level preparations. And this has been enhanced over the past few years very much, and for which we are very thankful to the Greek government and to the Ministry of Defense and the Chief of Staff of Greece. Also, I should underline that over the past few years, we have very much enhanced the cooperation in culture and education. Actually, these areas are very much underappreciated fields. When sometimes we take for granted that cultural cooperation is a given, from above for both of our nations, but there is a lot that needs to be done, and some steps have been taken, which will be the culmination of which will be, of course, in the coming few months during the 35th anniversary of Armenia's independence celebrations. We also anticipate to open a big exhibition of the history of Armenia in the Acropolis Museum, which will happen at the end of October. In addition to all of this, of course, I can certainly say that there is a lot of efforts exerted in the areas of economic cooperation, even though from the point of view of infrastructures and facilities, it's not so easy to have access to the Greek markets as it would be, for example, if we were closer or if we were in the same market. Nevertheless, the much anticipated, hopefully soon, Turkish-Armenian normalization and the opening of the borders between Armenia and Turkey, whenever they happen, hopefully soon they will happen. This will, of course, greatly impact the Greek-Armenian trade and economic relations. Nevertheless, we have been taking several efforts to boost the cooperation, and the last one of which was during the state visit of the president. We organized an economic forum here, a business forum here with the Athens Chamber of Commerce. And in the coming few months, we anticipate to organize another similar forum in the field of tourism cooperation in Yerevan. So hopefully we'll do that in the near future as well. Certainly, the decentralized cooperation between the municipalities is also important. We pay here at our embassy, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Armenia is paying a lot of attention to this. And I'm trying to have as much outreach as possible and bridge the Greek cities with the Armenian cities. Of course, this is, you know, I wouldn't say that this is the most important field for our cooperation, but it's, you know, we pay some attention to this, and we believe that cooperation between cities and regions is important and is part of the overall general economic cooperation between the countries. All of this leads me to as a conclusion to this brief remarks to the idea that we had been trying to promote since the first days I was here, actually since early 2022, that substantially the relationships are of a nature of strategic cooperation, and what we need to do is to achieve formally, and to affirm that these relations are of strategic nature. And hopefully in the near future, in the near couple of months, Armenia has already actually in the last few months, whoever has been following Armenian foreign policy has been forming strategic partnerships with a number of European countries, as well as the United States, as well as also China, for example. But Greece in this chessboard, or on this chessboard, plays an important part. And I wish, of course, that Greece was the first or one of the first countries to have such cooperation with Armenia. But you know, it's better late than never. So hopefully we'll do that very soon. And this I would consider as one of the biggest achievements of my mission also here as an ambassador. So I'm welcoming all of you in this important initiative, and wish you success in the upcoming discussions, as well as a repetition of or keeping of this format in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. Now we will move forward to Mr. Michalis Livanos, who is a member of the New Democracy Party and representative of the Greece-Armenia Parliamentary Friendship Group in the Hellenic Parliament, and a very good friend of Armenia. Mr. Livanos, can you
okay, now I think you're able to hear me.
Listen
to me. Thank you very much. Your Excellency, Mr. Ambassador, dear ladies and gentlemen, participants in tonight's think tank. For me, it's a great honor to participate in this discussion as a representative of the Greek government and a member of a parliament with the New Democracy Party here in Greece. I would also like to welcome you to tonight's online meeting and express my hope that over the next few hours, we will engage in an interesting and productive discussion leading to meaningful conclusions. Greece and Armenia, as you all feel, we are like just two sister countries, given that our people share many cultural similarities, particularly with regard to culture, family, and religious institutions, philosophy, but above all this, because we share common and deeply painful experiences concerning the brutal violence and persecutions we have endured throughout history at the hands of common enemies. However, despite the attempts by various aspiring rulers throughout history to annihilate our nations, our people survived with courage, physical endurance, and strength of spirit. Today, Greece, as a member of the European Union, and Armenia as a country friendly to the great European family, and maintaining strong migratory, commercial, and cultural ties with most countries of the European Union, together we look forward to the European ideal, which is founded upon the principles of freedom, equality, and the protection of human dignity. Greece is willing to contribute to the necessary procedures for the accession of Armenia to the European Union and hopes to see Armenia one day becoming an equal member of this great economic, political, and soon, I believe, defensive union of states. The Greek government and the Greek people possess both knowledge and experience, which we are able and willing to share both with the government and the people of Armenia, in order to assist the latter in completing the necessary developments at both the institutional and productive levels, so that through this appropriate preparation, Armenia may submit an official application for accession to the European Union with strong prospects of success. My country, Greece, will continue to serve as a supporter and advocate of a positive perspective, both within the European Union and in an international level, regarding the significance of a potential accession of Armenia to the European Union. Europe needs Armenia as a pillar of stability and development in the Caucasus region, while Armenia needs Europe in order to become even more self-reliant and independent from the political and strategic influence of partners who seek not relations of mutual friendship and equal treatment, but rather a relationship of dependence and subordinations to foreign interests, instead of serving the interests of the Armenian people and their homeland. I'm truly delighted to be with you, even if only virtually, and I look forward to sharing thoughts, ideas, and a productive dialogue with all of you. I will also would like to thank and congratulate, first of all, Mr. Banoutsos and Mr. Safarian for their great idea to organize this meeting. And I will also like to congratulate Mr. Ambassador for his great work on making stronger the relationship between both our countries. Thank you very much for the kind invitation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Livanos. Now we will move forward with the welcome remarks from the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Armenia, represented by Ms. Lena Terzikyan, Head of the European Integration Department. Madam Terzikyan, the floor is yours for welcome remarks.
Thank you very much, distinguished colleagues, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It is really a big honor for me to be present, even though virtually, and to address today's conference organized by the Armenian Institute of International and Security Affairs jointly with Kedisa. Thank you very much to the organizers for bringing together experts and policymakers for a discussion that I find both timely and highly relevant in today's geopolitical environment. Armenia highly values its long-standing friendship and strategic partnership with Greece, because our relationship is rooted in historic ties, shared values, and mutual support. Today, this cooperation also carries the European dimension because Armenia continues to deepen its engagement with the European Union and broader European political space. And I would like to take back to the words of distinguished Mr. Livano, stating that Greece will support Armenia for the future membership to the European Union. Let's remember this at this point right now and come back to this maybe several years afterwards. So what do we have now? Over the recent years, Armenia-EU relations have developed dynamically and substantially. What we always say that we have a momentum of our relationship. We have SEPA as an important foundation for advancing our democratic reforms, strengthening institutions, rule of law, strengthening our economic resilience, and expanding sectoral cooperation with the European Union. At the same time, it was also mentioned by the previous speakers, we have strategic agenda for Armenia-EU partnership adopted last December, which opened a new phase in our relationship because we have more, let's say, dimensions. We have not only governance, connectivity, energy, but we also have digital transformation, resilience, security, mobility, and people-to-people contact. Now, this document reflects the shared political will to elevate Armenia-EU relations to a new strategic level and to deepen Armenia's integration with a wider European and political economic space. Let's talk a little bit about a practical and strategic dimension of our cooperation, or let's say our partnership with EU. We have presence of European Union mission in Armenia, UMA, which continues to contribute to regional stability, confidence building, and security. On the ground, we have support through Resilience and Growth Plan, which is strengthening our democratic resilience, institutional reforms, and economic diversification and sustainable development, which is also very important. We have also Armenia-EU visa liberalization dialogue, and I'm glad that we are also joined by our distinguished colleague from the Ministry of Internal Affairs, who also lead the process of visa liberalization dialogue. And Armenia is the only country right now who has visa liberalization dialogue with EU. But visa liberalization dialogue is not only an important step towards enhancing mobility and strengthening people-to-people contact, but also there are a lot of reforms which come with the visa liberalization itself. A lot of practical reforms, health insurance, integrated border management. So we have, let's say, a whole bouquet of the reforms with the visa liberalization dialogue. So thank you, Mr. Safran. You have rightly mentioned the adoption by the National Assembly of the law on launching the process of Armenian accession to the EU, which was a civic initiative. And this reflects aspirations of the Armenian citizens and Armenian strategic vision for the future of democratic and secure. You have rightly mentioned the most important events during the beginning of the May. So let's start maybe from the 5th of May, which marked a milestone, important milestone for the Armenia-EU cooperation and partnership, first ever EU-Armenia summit held in Armenia. And this summit reaffirmed our shared commitment towards democracy, sovereignty, peace, and prosperity. And we have concrete outcome document, the EU-Armenia Summit Declaration, call for expression of interest to invest in Armenia. The Frontex document was pre-signed. So we have also a wide range of documents, outcomes. And today, just before our today's meeting, I held a short VTC with our EU colleagues. So it was something that now we have a new chapter to open after the summit itself, and maybe to look forward for the next summit. Another important event, let's say a tremendous event, which was held, it was a European Political Community Summit, and we hosted, let's say, unprecedented high-level representation in Armenia, also from Greece, which was a big honor for us. And hosting of the 8th EPC Summit in Armenia demonstrated our commitment to broader discussions on peace, stability, connectivity, and regional cooperation. So now we should say that normalization of relations, opening of borders in South Caucasus are of utmost importance, because these developments would not only benefit people of our region, but would also contribute to the strengthening broader European connectivity, resilience, and cooperation. I would like to sincerely thank for organizing today's conference, because now we have a very important moment in rapidly changing international environment. Dialogue among partners, experts, and institutions remains essential for strengthening mutual understanding. I'm confident that today's discussion will be productive and forward-looking, and I wish everyone a great success. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So before moving to our main panel, we have two more welcoming remarks. We have received also the welcome message of the Deputy Minister of the Internal Affairs, the Hellenic Republic, Mr. Konstantinos Gyulekas. So I will read it on his behalf. Distinguished organizer, ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pleasure that we welcome the joint initiative of the Center for International Strategic Analyses, Kedisa, and the Armenian Institute of the International Security Affairs. Today's discussions concerns not only geopolitics, but also the long-standing friendship between our two nations, which share common values and common historical memories. Greece, as a member state of the European family, possesses more than 4 decades of experience within the European Union. This experience clearly demonstrates that the path toward the European integration is a path of stability, prosperity, and democracy. Today, Armenia stands at its own critical juncture on the road toward Europe. In this effort, Greece remains a steady and sincere supporter. Thessaloniki and the wider region, which hosts one of the most vibrant and active Armenian communities, constitute a living bridge of friendship connecting our two peoples. Congratulations to the organizers for this excellent initiative, and we wish every success for this seminar. We are confident that the conclusion of today's discussions will represent yet another important step toward building even stronger ties between our two nations. And now we will come forward to the last speaker as far as for the welcoming remarks for our main panel. Madam Haikanush Chobanyan, Deputy Head of the International Cooperation Department of the Ministry of Internal Affairs of the Republic of Armenia. Madam Chobanyan, the floor is yours for the welcoming remarks.
Thank you, distinguished colleagues. It is a pleasure to participate in and contribute to this important webinar and talk about the EU-Armenia visa liberalization process. The launch of visa liberalization dialogue marked an important milestone in Armenia-EU cooperation. For Armenia, this process is not only about facilitating mobility for our citizens, but also about advancing comprehensive reforms in all 4 blocks of law: migration and border management, document security, public order, and the protection of fundamental rights. We also view this process as a transformative opportunity to strengthening democratic institutions, modernize our systems, and further align with European standards and values. I would like to mention that the Ministry of Internal Affairs plays a central coordinating role in this process. At the same time, the implementation of the Visa Liberalization Action Plan requires a comprehensive and whole-of-government approach, bringing together efforts from almost all government entities. Over the past months, Armenian institutions have been actively engaged in implementing the benchmarks set under the action plan. As a result, on May 5th, during the EU-Armenian Summit, the first progress report was handed over to the Armenian government. As it was highlighted in the report, Armenia is at the advanced stage of fulfillment in the areas of document security, border management, migration, and asylum, and has initiated effective reforms in certain areas. For example, modernization of the population register and identity document systems, introducing new biometric passports, improving border management capacities, and deepening cooperation with European and international partners, including Europol, Frontex, Eurojust, and others. At the same time, we clearly understand that visa liberalization is not only about technical benchmarks. It is equally about trust, sustainability, institutional resilience, and the ability to ensure that the reforms produce long-term and tangible results for citizens. For this purpose, the roadmap of the FLAP implementation is drafted and to be adopted for further implementation by the government. We highly appreciate the support provided by European Union and EU member states through expertise, technical assistance, and exchange of best practices. There are a few projects currently ongoing to support Armenia in this process. We look forward to continuing political and technical support from the EU institutions and member states throughout the implementation process. In particular, we highly value the practical experience and expertise of member states such as Greece, especially in areas related to migration management, border security, document security, as well as interagency coordination. Such cooperation and experience sharing are essential for ensuring effective and sustainable reforms. Continued expert engagement, capacity building support, and operational cooperation will remain crucial for achieving our common goals. As it was rightly mentioned also by my MFA colleague, Armenia is currently the only country engaged in an active visa liberalization dialogue with the European Union, and we view this as an important expression of trust and partnership. Our objective is clear: to bring Armenia closer to European standards while ensuring secure and well-managed mobility for our citizens and strengthening institutional resilience. And Armenia remains fully committed to continuing this work in close cooperation with the European Union and all partner member states. Thank you for your attention, colleagues.
Thank you very much, Madam Chobanyan. Now we will forward to the main panel. We will start with Professor Panayota Manoli. Short introduction about her. Panayota Manoli, she's an associate professor, political economy of international relations at the University of Peloponnese. She studied political science and public administration at the University of Athens and holds a PhD in international relations from the University of Warwick. She has held academic and research positions at institutions such as the London Schools of Economics, the University of Pittsburgh, the Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars in Washington, D.C. She also taught at the University of Aegean, worked with organizations focusing on the Black Sea region. Professor Manoli, we look forward to hear your presentation. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Tigran. I hope you can all hear me as well. And great. I'm very pleased that I am with you today. And as it was said previously by the ambassador and by Stepan as well, we've known each other since quite some time. So I'm really very pleased to be among old good colleagues and from the academic point of view, I'm not a diplomat, and also good friends, I would like to say so. And thank you, Stepan and the Armenian Institute for International and Strategic Affairs, also the Kedisa for inviting me in this discussion. And I will start by referring to something that the ambassador said previously. We've met more than 15 years ago, I think. And back then, in 2008, around that time, a lot of scientists from the Armenian side and from the Greek side came together to discuss primarily issues of their common neighborhood, and that was the Black Sea, and that was primarily the discussions we used to hold. Today, we talk about the European Union, and therefore, I think this is also indicative on how the agenda changes. Also, I would like to start just by saying that the European Union, it seems today, that is also the fundamental framework and the broader also framework within which Greek and Armenian relations as well develop. And they are going to develop because in many aspects, including economic cooperation, connectivity issues, and so on, the EU factor is extremely important in how, like EU, in how Greek-Armenian relations develop, and in Greece. We've seen that in other also in all the foreign policy of Greece, that the Europeanization aspect of Greek foreign policy is fundamental. And I think here, at this, in this regard, there are a lot of opportunities for further, taking advantage of the EU framework, for fostering further and substantially the bilateral relations between Greece and Armenia. And I will stop at this moment, at this point, and I will go to, I'll try to address the key question that was asked, and that was what are the key lessons that we can bring forward, the key takeaways, let's say, from from Greece's experience in the European Union, and lessons that might be, I don't like the word lessons, let's say key takeaways that could be helpful for another country like Armenia that has an association with the European Union. I have a couple of notes. I'm going to open them in front of me here as well. So as the previous speakers said, of course, there are strong cultural and historical links and some similarities as well between Armenia and Greece. But nevertheless, the 20th century kept the countries apart, and both Armenia and Greece had a very different experience, especially in the last 50 years of the 20th century. Both countries, the two countries, belonged to very different political, ideological, and economic blocs. The Western one for Greece, the Eastern one for Armenia, and that experience, that that experience of the two countries has fundamentally shaped the current institutional evolution of the two countries. Especially for Greece, its membership in the European Union has been very important and has defined the domestic, in a lot of aspects, the domestic affairs in Greece, because the public policies in Greece are shaped by the European Union membership to a certain extent. And also, of course, EU membership for Greece has shaped its foreign policy and its wider political orientation. So let's go to just talk about a few key takeaways. Now, I would like to say that the first one that we can refer to is that the accession to the European Union, becoming a member of the European Union, is a long path. It's a very lengthy process. It might not be linear. And this is very important for a country who has membership aspirations. And accession has been a long, lengthy process, even back in the 1970s, and 1980s, when the European Economic Community was just like 9 countries. So we can imagine how, more difficult today the accession can be when the European Union has many members and a more difficult geopolitical as well environment to perform within. And in Greece, it was mentioned before, Greece, despite the fact that had an association agreement in 1961, that's when it signed the association agreement, it joined the European Union in 20 years later, in 1981. So it took 20 years for this membership to take place. And in the meantime, the association agreement was also frozen for 7 years due to the dictatorship at the end of the 60s that took place in Greece. So from frozen the accession, from postponing the discussions for membership and so on, at the end, Greece managed to join the European Union. It's at that time as well, for the accession to be successful, the Greece as a candidate country had also to prove its European identity and its European orientation and its place in the European family. And then, and in certain cases even later on, Greece was regarded as an exception to the EU club. That was an exception due to the unique, let's say, the unique features in Greece in terms of its culture compared to the Western societies, Western European societies or North European societies. An exception also in terms of the geography, because imagine back then in the 80s, Greece was isolated somewhere in Southeast Europe, and there was no geographical continuation like with other EU countries. It was just an isolated in Southeast Europe. So that also, and it was also exceptional, let's say, because also in terms of its economy, Greece was more like of an agricultural economy, and also in terms of the GDP, it was much lower. It was below 50% of the European Economic Community's average. So economically, culturally, geographically, or geopolitically, we can say it was an exception to the EU club. And Greece had to prove its belonging in the EU club. And I think these type of key takeaways, key lessons, let's say, or experiences, we better say, are also important in any country that wants even today to join the European Union, because those issues about whether we are an exception, like a candidate country or an association country, is an exception to the EU club. It's also today like a discussion that takes place. So I would say that this is the first, let's say, key takeaway. A second one, it's the importance of political elites and leadership in the accession process and also later on. So in the accession process, political elites and leadership do, as we can understand, play also an extremely important role. Of course, societies matter and the public matters, but at the end, it takes a leader to have a dream and to formulate that dream, the political design that has, for his or her country as a leader, to translate that vision into, policy. In Greece, as I think most of us know it was back then Konstantinos Karamanlis, who was that leader, and his role was central for bringing Greece into the European Union. And his very famous statement that we belong to the West, we belong to the West, it is a statement that it is often repeated even today. It was even a statement that was repeated during the crisis that Greece went through. And back then, Karamanlis stated that politically, security defense-wise, economically, culturally, we belong to the West. That's what Karamanlis said already back in 1976, even before, the actual accession of Greece into the EU. Also, Karamanlis managed to do something else, to successfully persuade the European elite, political leadership, to especially, elites in France and Germany, to finally accept Greece's somehow, let's say, rapid at the end, after the collapse of the end of the dictatorship, rather like rapid accession to the economic community by framing the membership as critical, geopolitical, and also as critical democratic imperative, rather than just a merely economic one. So that's how the membership was framed. And I think this is also important in current discussions that take place regarding European Union's future enlargement, the way that, association agreements are shaped, implemented, pushed forward or not. So this framing, I think, is extremely important. Political leadership is, of course, as I said, critical, and it's equally important. It's extremely important for small countries, if I may use the term small. We use it in politics, like small powers. But here we should not also have a misunderstanding. Leadership is extremely important for big countries as well. We've seen that in the European Union, in the way that the European Union has evolved, how leaderships back in the UK had a great impact. It was the leadership somehow that decided back then for the UK to join the EU and then also to exit the EU. We've seen the fundamental role of leadership in France in several cases, even in the 60s and so on. A third, so all in all, leadership is not a unique issue for small countries, but of course it's fundamental. A third key takeaway, I would say, is that the European integration process and the European Union as an actor, as an organization, is not monolithic. The European Union, I think today, of course, we can understand it's not the same like the one that was back, in 1990s after the Maastricht Treaty, for example. That was a historical moment for EU's evolution. So the EU is not a monolithic organization. It changes, it evolves, its agenda evolves, its capacities evolves, its membership evolves. And that creates some challenges. It creates a lot of challenges, especially for, let's say, smaller, again, I would say, powers who need to follow that evolving agenda and not only respond to it, but also shape it, shape the EU that changes. And for Greece, that has been very, difficult to deal with, because when you join a country and it's like only, a few other members with whom you have to negotiate over issues like the structural funds or any other institutional issue, is maybe, it seems to be easier than the current situation where the EU has a lot of more members, and its agenda is wider than the agenda that was back in the 80s and the 90s. This evolution of the European Union brings also a lot of opportunities for the countries to have an impact on the decision making, even correct some faults, and therefore shape also the agenda. I can give here also an example that Greece I'll give an example. Greece had this organized this very important Thessaloniki summit back in 2003, and that gave a boost to the enlargement of the European Union in the Western Balkans. And that summit really helped and shaped, and therefore Greece helped in shaping the enlargement agenda of the EU in the Western Balkans, and putting, placing it also as a priority. And therefore, it's not that the EU only impacts the members, but the members, of course, impact the EU policy. It's this loading of EU agenda. It's the fourth, I would say, key takeaway is that the European Union, and it's of course linked to the previous one, that the European Union, I would say, is a good partner for smaller powers, and that also, and of course, membership is also has this positive element. It's an inclusive organization, and the European Union is a good partner for smaller powers, because the European Union, due to its own constitution, due to its own nature, is a normative power whose action is led by the law, by international law, by regulations, and it has these normative and elements. And it's not really, its approach, it's through persuasion, motivation, and communication, rather than coercion. And that's why, therefore, it's a partner, it's a strong partner, of course. It's economically, and at least economically and politically, and in other aspects, it's a very powerful partner. But the way it operates in international system and in its diplomacy allows for more room, like a larger, room for smaller actors and powers to put forward their priorities and to negotiate. And I would say that this is critical today, because exactly we go through a historical period where rules collapse, and this type of normative agendas and approaches also collapse. And EU seems to be the only big power that tries to hold on into that normative basis of international politics. But the experience also of Greece as a member indicates that the European Union has given Greece, that is again small economy, has given it, for example, a massive also financial power, because by joining the Eurozone and having as a national currency the euro, Greece has acquired some extra, financial power in the global system that it wouldn't have if it had its own, currency. That would have been more difficult to maneuver in today's globalized financial system that very often goes through a crisis. The way that the European Union has been assisting smaller powers, we can see that especially in the cases also of crisis. And in Greece, we've seen that not only in the financial crisis and the debt crisis that Greece went through, but also in other cases, such as the migration crisis back in 2015, the various security problems that the Greece has to deal with in Eastern Mediterranean and its neighborhood, and I would say even before, like even in the Southeast Europe in certain cases back in history, or during the COVID and the pandemic. In those crises, the European Union has provided not only funds to deal with the crisis, but also funds to reconstruct the relevant institutions or move on with the modernization of the economy in specific sectors. So it has provided funds, it has provided know-how, it has also provided, other means of assistance, diplomatic, political, and so on. And I'm not going to get into specific numbers about the size of that help, which is massive if one compares it to the GDP of Greece. I will come now to a fifth take away. And the fifth takeaway would be that the Europeanization process is a process that indicates that it's the spirit of the rules and the regulations, or the spirit of the law matters, not just the alignment, the institutional just alignment. So the major, I would say here, takeaway is that any formal adoption of EU law will not make a great difference unless this is followed, and it means deep also administrative, social, economic reform. That's what we mean when we talk about the spirit of the law, the spirit of Europeanization, or the spirit of association, if we want to bring it to the Armenian case in this regard. Without that, there is only weak implementation of the law, and then we can easily go to a reverse path of de-Europeanization. And the threat of reversal is always here. It does not mean that because one country signed the association agreement or one country signed, the accession, then there is no reverse. There could be, of course, always a reversal, and that reversal depends on the candidate country or the member country primarily. As in the case of Greece, for example, in terms of institutions and in terms of the way that the liberal democratic institutions work, democratic consolidation has been one thing. The quality of governance, however, has been another thing. And there have been always problems with the rule of law, bureaucratic inefficiencies, and those continue. The challenges are still here, and those they are, of course, significant challenges to Greece's governance. What is interesting, I would say, is that it took Greece, since the signing of the association agreements, it took Greece 20 years to join the European Union, back then the European Economic Community in 1981, and then it took Greece another, we would say, 35 years. After that, it took Greece 35 years to put its membership to question. That's what I mean with the reverse process. Greece was part of the Eurozone, is part of the Eurozone, is part of the, let's say, countries that they have been in the core of the European integration process. Schengen, the defense community, the Euro. And despite that, in 2015, there was that question mark about whether Greece would be able to keep or would want its political leadership and its people, and if it was also able to maintain its place, not just at the core of the EU process, but in the EU in total. That's why everybody knows that term of Grexit, which meant that Greece could leave the European Union due to the financial problems it has been witnessing. That also brings us to another key takeaway, and that one refers to the fact that, like, very often attempts, to modernize a country, attempts to restructure a country can be blocked, can be a failure, could fail, and that failure is the outcome of an ideology of populism, an outcome of corruption, an outcome of patronage, that do not let the modernization to take place. Last key takeaway, and then after that I'm going to conclude, so we can leave some maybe time for discussion, is that European Union integration is and the membership in the EU in a free society, in a liberal, democratic, free society, is often a matter of discussion, of questioning, of criticism, and sometimes also an issue of polarization. And what we call it sometimes also in the literature as Euroscepticism. It's an aspect of that, okay? It's which is in many European societies. In Greece, however, this EU as an issue of polarization has been evident, and it is stronger, the discussion on the EU and whether Greece should stay, leave, or whether it's beneficial to be a member of the EU, and so on, it comes to the surface, especially during times of crisis, as one can understand. The accession in general, however, in the general public, the accession to the European Union is a historic event which is remembered mostly in a positive way. Still, after a lot of problems that we have faced and crises, and despite the fact that there is, I would call it soft Euroscepticism in Greece, rarely we see like the public advocating for a total exit from the EU. Despite the fact that there are often calls for fundamental changes to specific EU policies, whether those have to do with fiscal policy or with foreign and security policy of the European Union. I would just like to say, for example, I have a couple of numbers that we can see, for example, that 92% of, there was an opinion poll and in 2025, 92% of those asked in Greece, they were favoring greater unity in the of the EU, much higher than the one in than the EU average, or 71% of the Greeks are in favor of remaining inside the European Union. And what Greeks really emphasize is the notion of solidarity, and they consider this value of solidarity as the prioritizing one, as the core value today for the EU, the notion, the value of solidarity. I will just come now to conclude my intervention here, and I would say that at the end as well, either a country is a member or a partner, an associate partner to the EU, dealing with the European Union requires massive capacity, state capacity, and that capacity comes with expertise, knowledge on how you deal with the EU. We need knowledge and expertise, but at the same time, there is that requirement for diplomacy and policy capacity. And that's, I'm going to conclude here, and I'll be ready to discuss any issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Manoli, for a very thoughtful lecture. So now we will move forward to our next distinguished speaker, Ani Yegazarian. A short introduction. Ani Yegazarian holds a master's degree in Armenian philology and European studies from Yerevan State University and a PhD degree in political science from Friedrich Schiller University, Jena of Germany. She was also author of 20 scientific and analytical articles on Armenia-EU relations and Eastern Partnership dynamics. She is also the forthcoming author of a Springer Nature monograph, Armenia's European Aspiration, Bridging EU Standards and Balancing Regional Commitment. So I will give now the floor to Ms. Yegazarian for her lecture. Thank you very much. Please.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Two Nations, One European Vision. Today, we are not just exploring policy, we are discussing a shared destiny. Greece's historic journey from a challenging era to becoming a cornerstone of the European family is more than a success story. It's a strategic blueprint. And as Armenia navigates its own path toward European integration, facing geopolitical pressures and economic choices, the Greek experience serves as our guide, our mentor, our gateway. And today we will examine how Greece's this historical transition into the European Union provides a concrete strategic roadmap for Armenia's future as it navigates its own path through European integration. Now let me share with you a presentation. Hope you see it. Let's see.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. But uzman bir hat. I think that she has got on. I started. Good. Yes, history is not just a record of the past, but it's a big source of blueprint for the future also. And Greece's journey from a military dictatorship to full European integration is more than just a success story. It's a proven, exportable framework that Armenia can use for its own democratic survival and geopolitical pivot. We see a profound structural parallel here. In 1974, Greece escaped the military junta shadows by utilizing EU accession to permanently lock in domestic rights judiciary stability, and democratic elections. In 2018, Armenia ignited the revolution flame, and today Armenia seeks those same identical structural guarantees to defend its democratic gains against regional autocratic pressure. We must acknowledge the differences. Greece was geographically adjacent and had no competing trade bloc ties in the 70s. Armenia, conversely, is geographically distant and currently tethered to Eurasian Economic Union membership, which actively blocks direct integration, as we know. However, despite these divergent starting points, the strategy remains convergent, and EU integration acts as the ultimate security and economic imperative. Greece's accession was a masterclass in balancing three main pillars: democracy, economy, and security. First, democracy, leveraging EU standards for institutional lock-in. As Panayota Manioli mentioned, the Karamanlis government leveraged EU standards to permanently guarantee post-dictatorship civil rights. Second, the economy is about unprecedented growth, secured 200 billion euros in structural funds, triggering massive market access and agricultural infrastructure for indirect investments. And the third, security, establishing strategic independence. Counter Turkey-Cyprus regional threats post-junta period established independence from solely a US reliance and created NATO-EU synergy. I have signed out 4 key projection areas for Armenia to show how the Greek framework maps directly onto Armenia's current institutional trajectory. And these pillars or areas are democracy as a shield, economic diversification, security transformation, and EU security umbrella. Let's begin from the first pillar, which I have titled Democracy as a Security Shield. For Greece, EU accession was a strict prerequisite to sustain the democratic gains made after 1974 dictatorship. And Armenia is now projecting this by utilizing comprehensive and enhanced partnership agreement, CEPA, as the engine for judiciary and anti-corruption reforms. And in this mechanism, domestic reform directly generates EU support and international credibility, serving as a non-kinetic geopolitical shield. Second pillar I have titled The Challenge of Economic Untangling. Currently, Armenia's economy is tethered to an isolated Russian market through the Eurasian Economic Union, which blocks direct, deep and comprehensive free trade area and direct access, tethering the economy to an isolated Russian market. The Greek precedent shows that rapid adaptation to EU standards open entry into the single market triggered a 300% spike in foreign direct investment. And the core task for us, for Armenia, is that Armenia must untangle itself by achieving strict acquis compliance to survive economically outside the Russian orbit. Pathways to diversification. The strategy here can be focused on non-traditional geography-agnostic sectors to deliberately bypass physical isolation and Eurasian Economic Union limits. And we see three streams: high-tech to bypass physical borders, tourism aligned with European standards, and specialized exports designed to penetrate the European single market directly. Third pillar, I've titled Translating Security Standards. Following its own crisis, Greece fundamentally diversified its security ties, and Armenia is now in an active transition toward Western military standards and operational interoperability. Greece serves as a vital gearbox in this mechanism, providing direct military cooperation in air defense and advanced officer training. The next is EU security umbrella. And European integration provides a layer of regional sovereign protection that extends far beyond mere economic benefits. Greece acts as Armenia's EU gateway, a primary conduit lobbying in Brussels for an expanded European presence in the Caucasus and expedited visa liberalization. The gateway dynamic, Greece as chief advocate. This gateway dynamic is crucial. Greece actively fans the flame of Armenian momentum by providing diplomatic leverage within European institutions. And Athens acts as a translator, turning Armenia's raw democratic progress into the actionable bureaucratic language required by Brussels. And the synthesis is so, the architecture of integration, how I imagine, is so. Democracy lock-in plus economic leap plus security hedge equals to EU model. This bridge allows Armenia to cross over the chasm of autocracy and isolation. And these mechanisms are not bound by geography. They are a replicable technology of statecraft. And let me conclude with a choice between the past and the future. We move away from the junta shadows and the Russian isolation toward the future embracing the Schengen model and the Velvet Revolution. And the European Union remains the ultimate shield for freedom and prosperity. Driven by shared democratic values and Greek mentorship, Armenia's road gleams distinctly European. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your interesting lecture, Dr. Yeghazarian. So now we can move forward to Q&A part. Some concluding remarks from co-organizers. I will give the floor to Stepan Safaryan, please.
Let me start thanking all the official speakers with this wide range of practical bilateral issues they raised. Special thanks to the Greek parliamentarian, Mr. Mavros. I'm not
Livanos,
sorry.
Yeah.
And the wonderful representatives of my Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Mrs. Lena Terzikian and Haikanush Chobanyan, a good friend of mine. I was not expecting that she will be representing the ministry because we together we are UK alumni from the same year. And special thanks to Dr. Panayota and Dr. Ani for this wonderful and thoughtful speeches and presentations. I will provoke the discussion. Just take into account that Dr. Manoli outlined very broad range of factors which played a crucial role in Greece's Europeanization and membership. And also Dr. Ani just compared those two paths. Coming to the very practical track, the questions on the ground. If I ask the following question, what are the major practical priorities right now? 3 priorities for now, on which Armenia and Greece should be concentrated on. What is your list of priority, Dr. Manoli? I know that you are not a deep expert of Armenian case, but still just listening to Dr. Ani Ghazarian's comparative analysis, what would you recommend to Armenia? Because contrary to the Greek experience, now we have 2 major tasks. First, moving from Eurasian economic space, from Eurasian Economic Union. And in these days, by the way, we hear a lot of threatenings coming from Moscow, from other member countries, Belarus, speaking about political, economic implications if Armenia decides just to move to that direction. And here in our seminar venue, we have some 10 representatives from different areas, and one of them is Tatevik Bejanyan, who is a great specialist on Armenian working migrants surviving in Russia and the Eurasian Economic Union. I think she will be intervening briefly in a minute. But what would you recommend just to mitigate all these risks? How to move forward? Because in Greek path, in Greek track record, you hadn't this task just to move from the dictatorship to the democracy and to the full European integration. But here in Armenia, we have 2 tasks together. So what is your policy recommendation to us? Thank you.
Mr. Galumian, maybe ask Mrs. Manoli, Dr.
Yeah,
Manoli.
Professor. Yeah, Professor Manoli, you are muted. Can you please unmute yourself? We also have some questions in the chat. And after that, yeah, we can also read them. Thank you, Professor.
Okay, thank you, Stepan. That's a difficult, question. I think I don't know if there is a definite answer, and if you would ask anybody, I don't know, in Greece, in Brussels, would have a very clear and wise policy advice. Indeed, Armenia is in a very particular and difficult historical point. And as you've mentioned as well, in the case of Greece, let's say the challenges were coming from the domestic level, from inside the country, building the Europeanization of the country. despite, the difficult regional security environment. Nevertheless, the challenges, I think, for Greece have been mainly the domestic, coming from domestically. In Greece, in Armenia, you have these 2 levels gained. The challenges are both domestic, but also external. You have a neighbor who is, let's say, blocking somehow or making difficult the European path of Armenia. And that's difficult for any country to handle, I would say. Sound institutions are critical, and as I said before, state capacity, and that unfortunately takes time to build. But I think Armenia has accumulated a lot of experience throughout the years since its independence. But state capacity and political leadership, as I said, is fundamental. The other problem I think that Armenia, the challenge, let's say, that Armenia faces today and could block or could derail the European path, or the opening of the Armenian society and state in the global affairs, not only the European path, but in general, the opening of Armenia in global affairs. What could derail that as well, and particularly the European path, is the problem of this hybrid attacks to, let's say, to Armenia's path. Disinformation, for example. This is also something different in Armenia comparing to Greece. And that could really create problems because it directly then targets the public, the society, and that could fundamentally derail the problem and create massive challenges for Armenia. So it's not only that Armenia, compared to Greece, has to balance a major external actor. You've mentioned Russia specifically, which blocks, let's say, the European path, but also has another type of hybrid threats to face that Greece didn't have in the past as well. In both cases, I think, again, here, as I said, state capacity, helping Armenia to create a strong state institutions, help also focus also on the fight of disinformation as well in the country, and also move on with any aspect of connectivity. And connectivity is not only the roads, but it's also the digital connectivity. Connectivity has an element of also people-to-people contact. So that connectivity element, that Armenia should reconnect somehow, and after years of isolation, should reconnect. And there as well, I think it's a third pillar, I would say. There are no magic solutions. Everything changes. And the problem is that today, Russia's relations with the EU are at the state of war, in brackets or outside brackets, and that creates a problem. Because if we were talking about, the European path of Armenia, I don't know, a few decades before, maybe things were different. If there was a strategic partnership with Russia, then things could move easier, as well as for the countries that they want to maintain their relations with Russia for any reason. And I think those three issues that I've talked about, the state capacity, disinformation, and connectivity, are fundamental, I think, for making Armenia, keeping Armenia in a modernizing aspect, a modernizing process, and also forging further its European angle and direction. Yeah, that's what I would briefly or not briefly say.
Thank you very much.
May I make a complementary question,
Sure.
please, to Dr. Manoli and also to Mrs. Yegasarian? Apart from the obvious, let's say, stance of Russia towards the EU path of Armenia, I would like to ask, what about countries like Turkey and Azerbaijan? Are they posing a similar threat to the European path of Armenia? This is my question. And also, Stepan, if you would like to comment on this. Thank you.
Well, that question rather goes to me, and I would like just to start with our security risk assessment report we published last year on the margins of the NATO Parliamentary Assembly and Rosarot Seminar here in Yerevan. I was presenting that report, and not surprisingly, of course, the list of the countries with the high interest to generate hybrid warfare against Armenia is headed by Russia. But still, we have some other very, very interested actors as well, such as Azerbaijan and Turkey. The thing is that explicitly, Azerbaijan never voices concerns regarding to Armenia's strategic choice when it comes to the Armenia's intention to join the European Union. Because they say that their official positioning is that they respect, they don't want to interfere into internal affairs of other countries. They respect the sovereign choice of Armenia, etc., etc. They just show some reluctancy and indifference towards Armenia's strategic choice. But analyzing few hundreds of statements during last 2 years that we heard from Azerbaijan showed that implicitly they are very much interested in preventing this Europeanization of the region and Armenia in particular. They have some particular fears and concerns, for instance, as if Armenia will use European platform against Azerbaijan. By the way, just 2 weeks ago, when Yerevan was holding this Yerevan Dialogue conference, we had an Azerbaijani delegation. We had some off-the-record discussions with them too. And I was in a big shock that they raised several other concerns. For instance, they say that unblocking Armenia, Europeanization of Armenia will give more dividends to Armenia rather than to Azerbaijan. So who will pay to Azerbaijan? So they are asking for another additional benefits from this. And second question is that Armenia must silence Europe not to speak about Armenian issues. I'm speaking about this because last year's risk assessment report of AIISA showed that they are mostly concerned with this, that because of ethnic cleansing in Nagorno-Karabakh, because of exodus and this issue of refugees, they understand that if even Armenia doesn't speak about these issues, it doesn't mean that these issues doesn't exist at all. So they directly just punish us, as they say, to silence the Europe. That was their demand, unofficial demand, on the second track. And so just answering to your question, Andreas, of course, Turkey, Azerbaijan is the second country highly interested in generating hybrid threats against Armenia. And right now, they are intervening, meddling in Armenian elections through some political forces which are translating Azerbaijani demands and opening this discourse as if 300,000 Azerbaijanis will return to Armenia, etc., just threatening the country. And of course, Turkey, which is a bit different because they have some strategic goals. Of course, they are very dependent on Azerbaijan for many reasons: energy, logistic, this middle corridor, etc., etc. On one hand, of course, they understand that Central Asia and these global connectivity projects are of strategic importance to Turkey. So on one hand, they would like that just to make some steps to open the border. By the way, when in my opening speech I mentioned this middle corridor and Greeks possible role in Trump Road and in connectivity project, it is somehow linked with this, because this is kind of leverage, and not only that Greece is the destination, final destination of that corridor that is stretching from far east, from China, from India, and reaching the Mediterranean Sea and Europe, but also just to have this leverage, which requires kind of strategic alliances such as Armenian, Cyprus, Greek alliances, etc., etc. So just summing up, Turkey also somehow is very conditional. Sometimes they condition the opening and normalization of Armenian Turkish relations with Azerbaijani agenda, with Baku's agenda, and but contrary to Azerbaijan, they are more pragmatic, and they would like just to have some bilateral agenda with Armenians as well. We have other countries as well interested in generating hybrid risks against Armenia. Even Iran, you know that this is a problematic country, although it's a natural partner and neighbor of Armenia, our relations has no tension compared to other relations, but still they also are afraid of Armenia's westernization. First and foremost from NATO enlargement, but there is a very, very important difference here. They are very much interested in having direct communication with the European Union as well, especially after last war in Iran. So my recommendation to the Europeans and to the Greece would be to be more attentive on the change of behavior of the Iranian side. So, but still they are very cautious regarding to the Armenia's Europeanization as well. And finally, somehow we witness, unfortunately, some jealousy and some tension from time to time in Armenia-Georgia relations as well. Not only because Georgian administration is under Russian influence, but also they witness that Armenia is becoming more interesting and more important for EU, and somehow they are afraid that because of this connectivity project, Georgia might be marginalized to some extent. So to be frank, the neighborhood is very complete. Dr. Panayota and Andrea. So well, that is why we need, as Panayota said, of course, first, strong institutions, institutional and societal resilience to all this. But on the other hand, of course, some very particular support by our brotherly countries who understand Armenia better than others, and Greece is among those countries, if not the first. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have two questions in the chat. One, we will give the floor to Madam Sosi Tatikian so she can turn on her microphone and ask the question. But before that, we have one question from junior analyst at Kedisa, Spiros Tsaparas. He's asking about I will read the question. Given that Armenia's economic and security dependence on Russia, and from energy pricing to the collective security organization framework, remains structurally embedded, and the question is, how can an EU integration pathway be sequenced in a way that manages rather than accelerates Russian pressure without repeating the coercive dynamics that preceded in the 2013 Vilnius collapse in Ukraine? So I think this question, and I will give also the floor to Sosi Tatikian, so she can elaborate her question. Please turn on. Okay.
Maybe I will give my answer.
Yeah, you can answer.
Yeah, okay.
You guys, yeah, please.
Thank you for the question. The process of Europeanization in Armenia is currently proceeding with calculations that don't contradict at this moment our existing obligations. And yes, we all remember 2013 Vilnius summit, where Armenia also didn't initiate the association agreement despite 3.5 years very good negotiations and excellent notes given from European commissioners. But however, when the moment rippens to make a choice, the people of Armenia will make their decision. And as I have mentioned in my presentation, after all, after dictatorship, after junta, Greece also had its own momentum and successfully overcame the military junta. And went toward Europe and toward European integration, opening its aspirations. And the events you mentioned took place before the revolution, which is a very, very important point here, because I have compared the situation with the Greek, taking into account the processes in Greece after 1974 and in Armenia after Velvet Revolution, after 2018. And today much has changed in Armenia, and we are hopeful that we will succeed this time.
What about CSTO?
About CSTO, I can say that we have suspended now our membership, as you know, and when the time comes, so we can find out.
Well, I would cover the CSTO part because I know more from confidential channels. In fact, political decision is taken. I mean, just not to be back and not to return to the CSTO. Of course, Armenia is not exiting from this organization's Collective Security Treaty Organization for two reasons: not to insult Vladimir Putin, because the Prime Minister and the administration in Yerevan still believes that keeping good relations with Moscow is important and is a must. So they understand that this is Putin's reputation. This is about Putin's reputation, and they don't want to harm or just to insult or to attack on this reputation, which suffered a lot in Ukraine and elsewhere. So, but in Moscow, on the highest level, they know that Armenia will not back to the CSTO, at least having this administration in Yerevan. So that is why Kremlin-backed proxies are trying just to change the power here in Armenia and to have new administration, new authorities who could so-called normalize the relations and bring Armenia back to the Russian orbit, to the CSTO. And one of the challengers backed by Russia, by Kremlin, Samuel Karapetyan and his party, Strong Armenia, they are openly advocating that this relation should be repaired, and Armenia should be back to the CSTO and be a member of that organization. Also, Armenia is not exiting formally from this organization because the Western partners, they are not ready to provide something equal or some security umbrella. So that is why when Armenia first time discussed this issue during Security Council meeting, right after the Azerbaijani aggression in 2022, in autumn, in the fall, our partners in the West said, hold on, just hold on, because of course, no one is ready just to provide a security umbrella for Armenia, not having logistical or other communication and connectivity with the country. So this is the situation. But as Dr. Ani Ghazarian said, just in a time, I think after this elections in June 7. If Armenia finalizes its formal application to the European Union for the candidate status, and then I think we will take that decision regarding to CSTO, regarding to the Eurasian Economic Union. It will take some time, and it's not a one-way traffic. You understand that it depends on the EU's political decision as well. Now, just I would like just to pass for short, very short intervention, Tatevik Bejanyan, great specialist, because she's right now dealing with one of the hybrid attacks against Armenians, at least working in that country. Tatevik, you have a very short time. Please go ahead.
We can't hear. Can you turn on the microphone?
Okay.
Now we can hear you. Yeah, please.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Safarian, for this opportunity to take part in this meeting. On my side, about our labor migration flows, I can say that labor migration flows from the Republic of Armenia are mainly directed toward Russia, and any changes take place there directly affect our migration flows. Over the past 3 years, Russian migration legislation has become significantly stricter, reduced our migration flows to Russia by about 30%. It is high time to consider new destinations for our labor migration. I would also like to see Greece among these countries. Very short.
Thank you.
Okay.
May I intervene a little bit?
Sure. Professor, please, yeah.
I wanted to raise the hand, but I couldn't find I'm the old generation, and we are not technology very technologically very well educated, let's say. Okay, I would just I want to comment on Spiros. I can't see his last name. The comment that he made about how Armenia can reconcile its European path and probably accession, etc., with its the fact that its economy and security is embedded in Russia and the multilateral formats that have been established. And it seems like an impossible task at the beginning, from the first side, but I would say that that's the magic of diplomacy and of political leadership, to be able to give an answer to these dilemmas that might seem impossible to solve. And at the moment, I think what is of the interest, I suppose, of Armenia is the prosperity of the country, the development, the further opening, peace, and the modernization. All those things that they do not necessarily, mean that Armenia has to definitely choose between A and B, because at this moment, at the moment at least, that there is no application for accession, for membership. There might be in the near future, but overall, I think the resilience of Armenia and its further development is the fundamental issue. And either this is pursued through closer relations with the European Union, it can achieve, therefore, the resilience through closer relations with the European Union. Joining the European Union or developing an association and closer integration is not anti-anyone, it's not anti-Russian, it's not anti-Chinese or anything like that. A lot of member states of the European Union and associated countries have very strong economic, trade, etc. relations with third countries, but they are not, only EU members. So they have this ability. And at the moment, at least, the EU-Armenian relations are built around the notions of approximation, regulatory reforms, so that there is, for example, more access of Armenian products in the single market. This does not mean that you have to have a free trade agreement or a customs union that could create legally problems. So the key here is how you can have, bigger access to the EU market, more investments in Armenia, and this is feasible. It can take place, benefiting from the current agreements that Armenia has with the EU. That's what I wanted to briefly say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So before giving for concluding remarks to our organizer, I would like to thank you to our distinguished speakers of the main panel, Professor Manoli and Dr. Gegazelian. Thank you very much for very thoughtful lectures. And I will give the floor firstly to Mr. Banoutsos for concluding remarks, and then to Mr. Safarian, so we can finish this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tigran. I'm very pleased from the outcome of our today's webinar. I think it was very interesting, comprehensive. I would like to cordially thank the speakers, Dr. Panagiotta Manoli and Dr. Annie Igazarian. Of course, I would like to thank Mr. Stiopa Safarian, dear Stepan, for organizing this event. You, Tigran, for moderating and organizing and helping us organizing this event, make it possible. Of course, our distinguished guests that they delivered the welcoming speeches, His Excellency the Ambassador of Armenia and Greece, a Member of Parliament from ND, Mr. Livanos, everybody who participated in our today's webinar. One last remark: whoever is interested to receive a certificate of attendance, he may contact Kedisa at info@kedisa.gr, and in the coming days we will send them a certificate of attendance. That's all from my side. Congratulations to everyone for the event tonight and this evening, and for this very interesting outcome. Thank you once again, dear Stepan, dear Tigran, dear Panayoti Manoli, and dear Ani Yegazarian, if I'm spelling it correctly, for making it possible this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Safarian.
Just on my side, big thanks to Andreas and his team. I congratulate to us, both institutes, for this great success, despite the difficulties we faced in March. So I was extremely happy that finally we did this, and I'm very, very thankful to Dr. Panayota, to Dr. Ani Yagazarian, for their constant readiness to appear with their presentations, wonderful and comprehensive presentations. One thing is official speeches with diplomatic wordings, but academic and research freedom is another joy for me. So I enjoyed this combination, having bilateral agenda and items, very practical items on it, which were voiced by our wonderful official speakers. And my special thanks goes to the office of His Excellency Theo Harris, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Hellenic Republic, for this written opening speech, the Deputy Minister of the Interior, and again for this welcome speech that Tigran just read. His Excellency Mr. Tigran Mekarchian, Ambassador of the Republic of Armenia to the Hellenic Republic, member of the New Democracy Party and representative of the Greece-Armenian Parliamentary Friendship Group in the Hellenic Parliament, Mr. Michalis Livanos, Mrs. Elena Terzikian, head of the European Department of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Armenia. We regret that Mr. Nikolaos Romanos, Director of Digital Communication of the Greek Prime Minister from New Democracy, was not able just to join us. And finally, my special thanks goes to Miss Haiganush Chobanian, Deputy Head of the International Cooperation Department of the Ministry of Internal Affairs of the Republic of Armenia. I'm not repeating how much I appreciate the contribution by Dr. Panayota Manoli and Dr. Ani Yagazarian. And final thanks goes to all the passive listeners and other participants with their contributions and understanding. I regret that Sosi Tatikian should leave before having this opportunity to make some observation, but still I believe that in the near future we will build this forum up, and we will have other new formats, and hopefully one day to meet here in Armenia or in Greece together to discuss more issues. But as a start, that was very, very exciting. I really enjoyed the discussion. I was following every observation, and hopefully we will. Andreas, I have a proposition, suggestion to you, just to make a short brief of this webinar as a briefing paper with major points outlined by our key speakers, our keynote addresses, and so on. And then just to submit, I know that this time we missed very important voices of Ambassador Maragos, a Greek diplomat who is representing not only the Greek nation, great Greek nation, but also the EU delegation here in Armenia. So today we had some festival of the European movies, films, and he just apologized, saying that right in these hours. He will conclude this week of Euro movies. So hopefully next time we will have more people, more voices, when Armenia will be after the parliamentary election, after this crazy campaigning period, and everyone will be in his office and joined to our conversation. So I'm grateful to you, Andreas, for your understanding and patience, and big thanks to Tigran. If not him, we wouldn't have this opportunity, which started in December, just from intro webinar, web call with Andreas, and then just we had this amazing conversation today. Thank you, all of you. Enjoy your evening and have a nice weekend because it's approaching. And we are very much looking to the next opportunity to have another amazing discussion, perhaps in very particular field on very particular matters and issues, just to formulate Armenian Greek joint agenda, not only for the officials, not only for the people, parliamentarians, but for think tankers as well, just to move forward and to work on common projects, on common research. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much, Stefan. Thank you very much, everybody, for your participation and for making this possible.
So we conclude. Thank you very much.
Thank
The
you.
webinar is
Thank you.
concluded.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
All the best. Shora Kalitsin.